So let's start talking about verbs again. So far, all the verbs we've been working with were all in the indicative mood, but none of them was in the indicative negative. So we have not seen how to negate verbs yet. And today we're going to do just that. So it's a very simple concept. And it happens to be very similar to like how we do it in like Italian, Indo-European languages. So that's enough of a coincidence. So what do is we add nu. And what is nu? Nu is what we call a model prefix. Now, we haven't really seen them yet, I think. We have seen conjugation prefixes like I and mu, which we use to conjugate verbs, so to be able to use them inside of real sentences. But so far, we have not looked at model prefixes. So what do model prefixes do? Well, they change the mood of the verb. So in this case, from quote unquote positive to negative. Model prefixes go right before conjugation prefixes, and there's nothing that goes before them. So when they appear, they are the first element of the verbal chain, so of the verb. So I think we have an example, mu undu, whose grammar at this point should be very, very clear. So mu being the conjugation prefix, then the n, which stands for the third person in the hamtu or perfective conjugation, and do, the verb to build. So mu undu, he built, so it, although it's not written, it's understood by context. If we put the nu, so the model prefix, we know it goes first. So we have nu, then the conjugation prefix, then the personal affix, which in this case is a prefix, and then the verb. So he did not build it. So again, quite easy, I would say. The nu looks very similar to a English not or an Italian no. So I don't think you'll be forgetting that anytime soon. Okay. So here we have a few examples on how it's used. So we have just seen that, and we have a few more sentences. So nu, do, three. Now I think in lesson number 5, we went over the concept for which we know that some Sumerian verbs do not show the necessary elements that display grammatical numbers. So sometimes you have verbs that don't include the e, so the second person singular prefix for the hamtu conjugation, and they also happen to leave out the n. So whenever you see the verb no do, you have to take into consideration that the n or the e might not be written. So again, the meaning is dictated by context again. And here we have another example when we have n. So we know that it's not in the hamtu, it's in the maru. So this verb is in the present future aspect, and it's either first or second person singular. And yeah, so I or you will not build. So that's very easy. And moving on. So now we're going to talk about passive verbs. Just like
Can I ask a question quickly about the negation?
Sure.
If a nu came before an E3 conjugational prefix, would that change the vowel? Or is it always nu?
Nu itself doesn't. I mean, we'll see about that, but basically nu never changes. It's always written nu. And when it comes before E3, it usually, the E3 usually disappears, so it's not written. But I think it's documented. Sometimes it changes to a U, although we'll dig deeper into that in the next lesson, I guess, because there's more to that, and we'll see some of that later in this class. But yes, the vowel usually does not change, But sometimes it does. I mean, it depends on like the area and I guess the time period, but usually doesn't. Although the I3 is never, I mean, it's almost never written when you have a nu. Right. So thank you for the question. So another thing we have not seen yet is the passive conjugation. So far we have only been dealing with active verbs. So I have done, you have done, etc. I will do, but never I was done or I was built, it was conquered. So, well, how do you do that? We have seen, all the active conjugations. So, the transitive, perfective, and imperfective, which we know are defined by different sets of prefixes and suffixes. And we also know that there is another conjugation, which is the intransitive one, which does not change from ham to maru. It's always the same. And yeah. So basically, in Sumerian, the intransitive conjugation is also the passive conjugation. So depending on the context, and especially if the verb is active. So imagine you have an active verb and it's not used in an active conjugation. I mean, it's not conjugated as it should be, then it's probably passive. And so here it is. So N, nothing for the third person. Enden, esh. Pretty straightforward. And yeah, so here I have them with the verb do 3 to build. So E do N, I was built. Same thing with the second person. Third person, E do, he was built, or she was built. No difference. E do enden, enzen, and esh. They were built, you were built, we were built. So the conjugation is always the same. And it's quite relieving because that means you have one less conjugation to worry about. It's not like English where you have to like change things around. In Sumerian, it always stays the same. And yeah, so when you see an active verb used with the intransitive conjugation, then you know it's probably in the passive. I mean, not probably, it has to be in the passive. Otherwise, it's a mistake. It doesn't make any sense. And that's very straightforward. Another thing that can happen in Sumerian is when you have the passive conjugation being used, sometimes the prefix ba is used. It counts as a conjugation of a prefix. And it has a few meanings, although the most prominent one, I would say, is with the passive, especially when used again in the intransitive conjugation. So same thing, just that instead of having a E3, or rarely a mu, you have a ba. And it's a very clear indication that that's probably that's most likely in the passive. So ba, do, en, same thing. I was built, you were built, badu, badu enden, and baduish. This is the cuneiform character for ba, and it pops up quite a lot in Sumerian, so it's a very common sign in words as well. So be sure to look at that. What happens with the negation is that if you have the ba, so you have the passive ba, and before that you have a nu, the nu always changes to la. And it's the only time when it changes, like structurally. So it does not appear as a nu, it appears as a la. So it's fundamentally different. And for the other cases, it just says nu. So ba du, the temple was built, changes to la ba du. The temple was not built, but you see that in the analysis, the la stays a nu, because it is what la essentially is, a different form of nu. All right. So moving on, we have dimensional prefixes. So those who did the exercises I gave out for homework already know that, I mean, they might have already encountered that In Sumerian, you don't always have, sorry. Что там? Хорошо. Okay. So, sorry. Можно дверь открыть? Sorry, what happened again? Today is a special day. Still celebrating my birthday, so I have people over. All right, so dimensional prefixes. They appear after the conjugation prefixes and before the personal affixes, and they basically just give additional information to verbs. And they basically work like, sorry? Did anyone say anything? Oh, okay. They basically work like grammatical cases, just with verbs and not with nouns. Because again, grammatical cases can only be used with nouns, and they never appear well like with verbs. So it is basically a way of indicating purpose or the dative beneficiary, location, etc., inside of the verb when it is necessary. So we have different kinds of them. We have, in this case, the locative one. So I have the sentence, sorry, the verb mu undu, he built. And if we put in a locative dimensional prefix, we have mu ni indu. So the ni element is a locative element, and it means he built it there. Mu na andu, he built it for him, na being the dative dimensional element, and he built it with him, mu unda andu. So the enda, nda, being the commentative dimensional prefix. And when they do happen in a verb, when they appear inside of the verb, you usually do not have E3, you usually have mu. Why? We can't be sure about that, but I think E is the neutral conjugation prefix, and if you have dimensional prefixes, then I think in the Sumerian mind, it's better you use mu. All right. Okay. So this is basically as long as a Sumerian verb can get. So in this verb, we have dimensional prefixes, conjugation prefixes, modal prefixes, and well, the verb itself, and personal affixes. So nu, modal prefix, not, negation. Mu, conjugation prefix. Na, dative element. So dimensional prefix. An, third person singular hamtu conjugation. So perfective. And do three, the verb itself. Meaning being, he did not build it for him. So if we analyze all the elements one by one, do three, built, an, so the n, sorry, not an, I guess, so only n, he, na, for him, mu, doesn't really have a direct translation, and nu, did not. So that is basically as complex as Sumerian verbs can get. Now, one thing that is very important about dimensional prefixes is that they have different forms depending on grammatical person and number. So how you write and say for me is different from how you say for you, etc., etc. So we'll study that now. These would be all the different forms. So ma, andu. Here, the dative element is ma, which is also an exception because it is basically a contraction of mu plus a, and it means for me. So he built for me. We have the n, so third person, do, build, ma, for me. He built for me. Mu, ra, andu. In this case, we have a distinct conjugation prefix element, so the mu. Then you have a dimensional prefix, so in this case, a second person dative dimensional prefix, then the n, and then the du. So here the ra is the dimensional prefix, so the dative element, meaning for you. In a third person singular, we have na, so same thing, just na, and this is how they're written. In the first person plural, same thing as the first singular. You have mu plus e for us. And again, this is how you write it, very simple. We don't know about the second person plural because, well, it's unattested. So not just that, but different authors have really different views on it. I think I saw it in like 2 different forms in 2 different books. So I'm not including it because I don't think we're sure about it at all. So I left it out. And I don't think we're ever gonna come across it. So it doesn't really make a difference. But if it were to like be discovered and well established, then I'll make it known to you. And last but not least, we have the third person plural. Ne. So he built it for them. And I think, yeah, that concludes it for the grammatical part of the lesson. Now, I would like to go over the tablet I gave as homework with you guys. So I included it once again, the structure of dedicatory inscription. So they start with the benefactive phrase, so the real dedication. So to what god, to what deity, to whom is the construction addressed and built, carried out in the name of. Then you have the subject, so the logical subject, the doer, the agent, then the object, and then the verb. All right. So in this case, that's what the tablet says. So without further ado, I would open the tablet. And maybe we can work through it together. What do you guys think? We could do something like this. I can probably screenshot it, put it on my desktop so we can work with the cuneiform as well as with the text at the same time, like we do in the reading classes. So for those who did do the homework, they should know that it does require some knowledge of Sumerian geography and culture, but it is all explained in the classes. All right. So
here's the moment where there should be universal acclamation. Let's do it. Everybody being very polite.
Well, it's the first time we do this, so I do expect that. So maybe the ones of you guys who did the homework can start, I guess. Oh God, what am I doing? What is this? Okay. All right. So what do we have in line 1? Aurelio, Erin, you want to take it? I know Erin, you did the homework. Aurelio, I think we went over it in the reading classes and stuff. So
I did not, but I can give it a shot. So let's see. The first sign looks very dingerish to me. So
it doesn't. It is.
Okay. And the next one afterward is Dumu. So normally sun.
All right.
And the rest I just saw you have thankfully glossed in the text as the up to. That makes it easier.
Right.
Although technically I think it's what, zu up at the end. But yeah.
Right, yes. So Dumu. See? Abzu, which is
Okay.
su. And we know that to be someone, not a something. So
Let's hear who that is, though, because for those who haven't done the homework, there you go.
the tutelary god of the city of Kinursha, which was one of the minor cities that happened to be under the control of the bigger city of Lagash.
Got it. And what does the zit part mean?
Right, just, good, righteous.
Got it. Okay. Righteous child of Abdu. Okay, interesting. So the whole thing presumably is a name, or more specifically a divine name.
Right.
Hence the ding at the beginning. Okay.
Correct. All right.
Let's hand over line number 2 to somebody else.
I can take it.
All right.
So the first sign is nin,
Good.
which means lady or mistress.
Very good.
And then ni, so his mistress.
All right, let's actually do the translation and the analysis after the line itself. So nin, and then ani. So his mistress. All right. And there's not much to analyze here, so. Okay, very good. So let's move on to line number 3. I guess I'll do it. Yeah, no.
You're making that very hard.
I know, but I understand the frustration, so it's fine. So the first sign would be a gu3. The second sign would be a day2, and the third sign is the same one that appears here. I think I glossed it over here. Yes, syllabic sign. So altogether we have gu, de, and what does that mean? I included it in the glosses as here it is.
Ruler, yeah.
Right, one of the city rulers of the city of Lagash. So presumably the agent, so the subject of the inscription. So we have gu, de, so gu there. All right. What about line number 4? Now, this is a very tricky one because it's not what it looks like. I mean, it's a compound one. So I guess I'll still do it myself if nobody wants to go for it.
I mean, the first one is pa.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It's pa.
Good. The first one would be pa.
And te.
Right. And then
And
the
si.
last one. Right. So altogether, they mean something very specific. So altogether, they amount to NC2, which for some reason, we're not entirely sure, is a city ruler. So it's written that way. So NC2, pa, te, zi. All right. What about line number 5?
Cherbourla.
Right. And what does that mean?
It's Lagash.
Very well. So Lagash, which is written, is it Shiburla or Nuburla? I forgot.
Cherbourla.
All right.
You have
And
key.
then, right, very good. So we have key after that. And what is the key?
It's to describe it's a city. It's a place. It's a determinative.
Very good. So it's the place determinative. Very well.
And then you have
And-
K for
Very good. Amazing. Do we want to do the analysis? So Lagash,
Lagash is it's the what's it called? It's a genitive, and
good.
then you have ergative of
Very well.
Udea.
Very well. So we know that the subject is probably Gudea, who is the city ruler of Lagash. So oopsie, why so no? Of Lagash. Very well. So we know that first is the benefactive sentence, then you have the subject, and then you have the object, and then the verb. So the next line has to be the object. Anyone wants to do it?
It's A2.
Very good.
A2, and then you have Girsu,
Very well.
which
I
is the city of Girsu. City of Girsu.
Very well. I'm just gonna grab the weird G because I don't have it on my keyboard. I have to copy and paste it all the time. So I'll do that. Now I can freely use it.
Where do you find the cuneiform on your computer? Where did you find
the cuneiform is from well, I take it from a website which makes it really easy to spell it out. But you just have to go in here. It's called Kantupi. I can give you guys the link in the next email.
Very much. Yeah, that's great. I have it on my iPhone, but not on my computer.
Oh, it's great. Otherwise, if it wouldn't exist, I would have to like use my phone, I guess, and then just copy and paste everything onto my computer and then do that, which is really unhandy. So here, I think two, yes. Two. So there you have it.
All right, that's great.
Yes. Oh, and I forgot. Okay, good. There it is. So we know that Girsu is one of the regions of Lagash, a minor city within the extension of Lagash's hegemony. Okay. Girsu. Good.
Then you have the determinative key again.
Very good.
Then you have K and Ni.
Amazing. All right. And what do they stand for?
E is the absolutive. It's but it goes at the end. It's the temple.
Right.
Then of Girsu, Girsu K, Ak, Girsu Ak.
Of Girsu, yes.
And Ani.
Very well.
And 0 because it's the object.
Very well. So his temple of Girsu. Very good. And then we have the verb. Does anyone else want to take it? No problem, no problem. You did more than enough. Very good job. Very good job.
Thanks.
Let's hear one more person for the last one.
I want to do it.
Oh, well, I mean, I guess you can.
Try it if no one else.
Okay, no problem. Let's go for it.
So it's mood not do 3.
Very well.
And I'm going to try to do the analysis. So the mu is the conjugational prefix.
Yes.
The na is the dative, the third person dative.
Right. So we're going to say
so
EP.
for her, I'm assuming
Yes.
for her since the beneficiary is feminine. And then do 3 is the verb.
Very well.
So he built for her.
All right. The only thing missing here is the, well,
the N for the ergative.
Right. So you would have the
Ah.
hidden N
Okay.
for the third person, which again is not written, but it's just better to, you know, mark it in the analysis. It makes everything a little clearer, I guess. We can mark it as third singular. I think
Okay.
that's a good way of marking. Very well, very well. Very well. So now, is it in her or a he?
It's a, I think it's a DT, it's a female lady, maybe?
Should be, yes. So I should be writing her.
I assume since it's his lady that it's a feminine deity, but I don't know if that's wrong.
Oh yeah, his mistress, right, sorry.
Although I've seen nin before being used for with a masculine reference, which is super confusing. I mean, you would think nin is lady.
Yeah, it does happen. It does happen. And one can only wonder about the concept of gender, especially with gods and stuff for the Sumerians. But does happen. So basically, the clear indication that it is in fact a female goddess is again the nin here. So mistress. Okay. So the only thing that's missing now is the dative. So we know that Dumuzi Abzu, his mistress, has to go in some grammatical case. And this is not in the ergative. So we can do like this, ergative, ergative, and then we have it here. And here, we have to have a case. Now, I did write it, didn't I? Yes. So what happens is sometimes, because it's very clear from context and it's a very formulaic kind of writing, you can exclude the final ra for the dative. So sometimes it's there, it's just not written. So nin, ani, ra, dative. And that should do it, yes. So altogether, Dumuzi Abzu, well, for Dumuzi his mistress, Udea, the city ruler of Lagash, her temple of Girsu, he built for her. Very good. Well, I say we're off a good start. Very, very well. So, okay. This would be the end of the lesson, as in I did not prepare anything else. Take this one lesson as a very experimental one. So I was not sure how long it would have taken to do the exercise and balance it with some more grammatical explanations. But I am very glad to see that it doesn't take us very long to go over the text. So I say next time we do the same thing, although we expand on more concepts when it comes to the grammar. And but very well, we are making some good progress. And I say every week now I'm going to step up the difficulty of the tablets. So I do expect some rising difficulty when it comes to the exercises and the homework. But if we keep working this way, then we'll have a reading group in no time. We can then work with real Sumerian texts, and I am very much looking forward to it. So what about you guys? Do you like the format? Do you think we should do more like this, or should we go back to the normal classes where we have just grammar and then you do the exercise together, and then they also pose the solutions?
I think this is better. Yeah.
Better?
Yeah, this is good.
Yeah.
This
Very
is
well.
better, yes.
I like
Very
it.
well.
I like it.
I'm glad. So next time we'll do more grammar, and then also the exercises when it's time for that. So,
Gabriele, a quick question,
sure.
if I may. In the beginning, you had covered the negative with mu, so nu mu. You had it with ba, which I think was la ba. Did we say
Yes.
anything about what would happen with I, like with or does that not occur?
It doesn't really occur now.
That makes sense. So that's why we didn't cover it. Basically, okay, awesome.
it's elided in the writing. The E basically never appears when you have a nu, and 99% of the time. But we'll see about the exceptions in the next class, I think. All right. So that concludes it, I think.